Hi folks, welcome back to Gardening in Nakusp with Ray. Today is August the 12th and we've had a very smoky day, and not too hot but very smoky. So it's challenging for gardeners with the air that we're having now. What's also challenging is the computer work. My part's easy, just walking around the garden talking. It's the editing and getting on YouTube, which is very difficult and very time consuming. And I appreciate Gail, and I appreciate Joe, and I appreciate Rob for their work in that part. But so I apologize to everybody for the delays. And this year's a little bit of a challenging in all kinds of ways, and it's challenging in this computer work. So we're hoping to work on that and improve on that and have a steady stream of YouTube shows for people to enjoy. So it goes from spring to fall in a nice pattern. But for this year, we're going to have to put up with our little bit of glitches that we're having. So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll do the best we can. Thank you. So what's blooming? Well, this is one of my favorites. This is a miniature Rudbeckia fulgida little gold star. And you can see it's just very cute and very nice. And if you have a smaller garden, it's just perfect for the small garden. Whereas the big Rudbeckias are quite large and kind of maybe out of place. So this is a wonderful plant for a small garden. So that's Rudbeckia fulgida little gold star. Wonderful plant is a Heliopsis. And this one came out of the compost. So that's one nice thing about using compost is in the fall I throw all my old cuttings into there, and this just came up from seed. And I'm not sure if it's the second year. This might be the second year for this one, and this one might be the first year over here, if you don't mind moving over there, Rob. You can look at that one.
I don't.
And it's a wonderful plant. You can see it's quite tall. On the waterfront where they get watered a lot and fertilized a lot, I usually stake them up, otherwise they tend to fall over. Here it's not so bad. It's on the peripheral and doesn't get so much food. And I don't really care too much if it does fall over or not. But it's a wonderful plant for the background, nice golden color this time of year, and blooms for a long period of time and makes great cut flowers because of the long stems. This is an older Heliopsis. It's been planted here since probably 2014, so you can see how large they get. And luckily this one I staked up so it's not falling over. So this is a Heliopsis hedge.
Okay.
So carrying on with our golden theme, this is a yellow helenium, which is not the normal one. Normally they're orange, and we'll show a little shot of one over in the other garden. But this is another beautiful plant, nice late summer, fall color. And again, a great cut flower. You can just cut one of these stems and you almost have a whole bouquet right there.
Okay.
So this is almost finished blooming, but here's a picture of the orange helenium. The raspberries are finished, but now the blackberries are happening, so it's always nice to have a continuous crop of something. And these were just picked the other day, so there's not that many black on there, but you can see how many berries there are. And these are the thornless blackberries, so they're really nice. And I had them espaliered on this fence. So again, you can see here, these are the canes that grew last year and are producing this year. These canes are growing this year and will produce next year. So I just have them, we don't want to cut them off because that's our production next year. So I just have them tied out of the way so that we can get at and pick these berries here. So here we are at the onion patch, and after about half of them are fallen down on their own, then you just take a back of a rake or just your hand and just break the rest of them off. So these are the red onions, and the white are the golden onions. So I'll leave them out here for a few days till they start getting a little bit browner, and then you pull them and leave them on top of the ground for a few days, and then you put them in a cool, dark place to finish getting set up for the winter. So these are the fancy French shallots or shallots. I'm not sure how you pronounce that properly, but this year they do, usually I get them about this size, maybe a little bit smaller, but this year a lot of them are just huge. So it's been a good onion year, as you saw in the other clip with the red and white onions. And so I'm very pleased with these guys. So they matured earlier. They had all fallen down and were all kind of old. And I harvested them last weekend, and it was so rainy I didn't want to leave them out on top of the ground, so I stuck them in the greenhouse for a few days. But now, or the other day when it was so hot, yesterday when it was so hot, I took them out of there because I didn't want them just to cook. So now I've got them in the, I'll lay them out, clean them up a little bit, I'll lay them out on that tarp in the garage where it's cool and dark. So if you're lucky enough to have a large enough garden that you have extra produce that you can preserve for the wintertime, that's great. And one of the easiest things to do is do herb vinegars. So these I just made a couple of days ago, and you can see, now they're made with white wine vinegar. And where I want to have some color come out, I use the white wine vinegar because that'll get you the color of the herb that you put in there, as opposed to the red wine vinegar, which is nice in itself, but it's where you want to see the color, you want to use the white wine vinegar. So there's white wine vinegar and the red wine vinegar are my favorite things to use for making herbal vinegars, because they're acidic enough, but they're not overwhelming like a balsamic vinegar or a cider vinegar. So this one is half opal basil and half green basil. So the opal basil gives you that spiciness and the color, and the green basil gives you the sweetness. So all in all, I put 2 cups of herbs in each quart jar, and then I fill up the rest with the vinegar. And some places recommend that you can heat the vinegar up almost to boiling point and then pour it on if you want a fast release. But that changes the acidity a little bit of the vinegar. So I prefer to do mine, just put the 2 cups of herbs in, put your vinegar on top, cap them, and then leave them sit for 4 to 6 weeks. And every couple of days you shake them. So I put them down in the basement where it's cool and dark, and then I got them in the laundry room there, and then when I go down to do the laundry or look at my canning, I just give them a little bit of a shake. And then after 4 weeks you can test it and just see if it's got the nice flavor that you like, and if that's good enough, then you take them from here and you strain the herb out, and then you can put them in a nice fancy bottle and have it for yourself, or give it, it's wonderful Christmas presents for friends. They really appreciate it, and it's nice, something from your home garden. So 2 cups of herbs, and they say you can use the stems too, but I always pick the leaves off the stems and just put the leaves in. So this one's with the basil, and this one's French tarragon. 1 cup of French tarragon and 1 cup of Thai basil. And so it's got a really interesting flavor because they're both nice flavors. They're licoricey and a little bit spicy. So this is the first time I've used the Thai basil, so I'm really looking forward to having this herb vinegars and trying that out. So 2 cups of herbs, fill it up with the wine vinegar, and then I put you don't want to have the vinegar come in touch with the metal, so you put a little bit of wax paper in between, and then that stops that from happening. Leave it for 4 to 6 weeks, test it, shake it every day, every couple days, test it after 4 weeks, and then if they're fine, then you strain them and put them in nice bottles, and then you've got a nice vinegar to use for your salad dressings or soups or marinades. So it's quite easy. And for those who use books instead of computers, I find this book is very nice. But nowadays, most people are computer savvy, unlike me, and you know, just Google herb vinegars, and you'll have a list of different herb vinegars to try, different combinations to try, and it's just an easy thing to do. Just a little addition, you don't have to can this or freeze it or anything. The vinegar is its own preserving medium. So when you make the herb vinegars and got it strained and in a bottle, it'll just keep like that for a long time. So you're just fine. It's very easy. The preserving thing is canning fruit. So it's fruit in a sugar or honey syrup, or you can even, I guess, do it in plain water, or some people do it in a fruit syrup like apple juice. So you're basically just cutting the fruit and putting it in a water medium or sugar medium or honey medium, and then you put them in a water bath canner, generally for about 20 minutes. So you don't need a fancy pressure canner or anything. So I like doing plums and pears and cherries. These are the cherries from this year. These are left over from last year yet. And what I like to do is make a fruit syrup or fruit salad in the wintertime. So I have frozen blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries. So I can do any combination. I put a couple of jars of fruit with a liquid in it, and then I throw the frozen berries in. So it's almost like having fresh stuff because you got the fresh berries, just frozen, not cooked at all. It makes a wonderful fruit salad. So you can do all kinds of different combinations, and you can even add, you know, if you wanted to put in bananas or whatever you wanted to put in there, or dried cranberries, you can do that too. So you make yourself a nice fruit salad in the wintertime, and if you got this all canned and the stuff frozen, it's just easy to do. So a further addition, the cherries I didn't even bother pitting. I just put them into the jar and put the hot syrup on, and then canned them in the water bath for 20 minutes. The plums, I'm not sure. Sometimes I pit them and sometimes I don't. I think maybe this batch I probably pitted, just so I get more plums in the jar. And the pears are a little bit more work. I like to peel them. I don't like them canned with a peel on. So usually I put them in a little bit of a salt water bath as I peel them to get enough to make 7 jars for the canner. So that just keeps them from getting brown. So the other day, my Savoy cabbages were starting to split. Now the Savoy cabbage is a little bit of an earlier cabbage, and I really like it because it's got a nice texture, it's crinkly, and it's a little bit sweeter, I think, than the other cabbages. So I had to use them up. And so the great way to use them up is making borscht. And I have an old recipe that I got from a Dukkebor cookbook. And the nice thing about that is the borscht uses carrots and potatoes, a little bit of green pepper, onions, so you can use all the stuff from the garden, and it's a way of preserving them. So I doubled, Rob will put the recipe on the YouTube site, and I doubled the recipe, made a big batch, but I have a pressure canner. So this stuff is better to pressure can rather than water bath, so it's a little bit more complicated. But for the double batch of the borscht, I got 11 quarts pressure canned. So that's, you know, a nice meal right there. And I had some to eat and some to give away as well too. And now with the recipe, usually I follow a recipe directly the first time. And then after that I make changes to it. Now, being a Dukkebor recipe, there's lots of butter in there and lots of cream. So I cut the butter down probably by about half, I think. I was going to look ahead of time, but so I used only 1 pound of butter for a big canner full of soup. And so you can cut back the butter a little bit and cut back the cream a little bit, and I throw a little bit extra vegetables in there. But so you can see the recipe and either do it like that the first time or make some changes to it yourself. But if you're going to preserve it, it's better to pressure can it, or a nice way of doing it is also to freeze it. And that way there's no extra cooking involved. You just bring it up to, you just cook it all appropriately and then throw it in the jars. And leave the jars down though, because it expands. If you fill them too full, your jars will crack, and you don't want that, that ruins your soup. So if you have a pressure canner or extra room in your freezer, it's a nice way of preserving apple or carrots and potatoes, and especially your cabbage, using that up so it doesn't go to waste. So since we're talking about preserving, the stuff that I freeze is the cauliflower, broccoli, corn, beans, spinach, and of course all your blackberries, your raspberries, your blueberries. And I also like making freezer jams. If you haven't tried that, that's a really nice way of making jams. I made a great apricot, blackberry, raspberry, strawberry, and so it's not cooked at all. It's just blended up and putting what kind of sweetener you want to use, and then you freeze it, and then you take it out, and it's just a wonderfully fresh flavor. And then so luckily I have a root cellar. It's not the greatest root cellar, but it's better than nothing. So all the root crops go in there, all your carrots and beets and potatoes, and then also my cabbages go in there as well too, and celeriac and fennel if I have anything in the fall. And then for canning, it's all your jellies, your pickles, your salsas, chutneys, tomato sauces, ketchups. So we're not going to turn into a gardening show, I think, but I think it's worthwhile to talk about how to preserve food, because food is cheaper now in the summertime, but it's more expensive in the wintertime. And if you can have some of your own goods preserved, that's even better. Plus you use your own jars, you can reuse bags, so there's less waste in the environment. And we don't have to be shipping stuff all over the country. We can produce stuff right here. And so with all these different ways of preserving, I have lots of food for the wintertime. So it's I really enjoy that. So thanks. So the peppers are enjoying this weather. They love this hot weather, and we've been keeping them moist enough. I have this tub of water nearby, so we just scoop out of there and we just dump into here. So here you can see the different kinds of peppers, and over here too, there's some really nice ones here too as well. So from those sickly little plants in the spring, they really picked up now, and they're giving us lots of bounty. Here we have our continuous cropping here. So these are more fennels. You can see the fennel over here, which is mature and being eaten. And then I have the next crop here that's coming along quite well. And then these are kohlrabi, and I'm hoping they'll do okay. We're having water restrictions now, so it's a little harder to keep things wet, but I'm hoping they'll do okay. And then over here, we have the little onions, which I decided not to thin. And we'll just let them get big enough. In another couple weeks, probably we can start pulling them. And then I just thinned the carrots out. And this is my late crop of carrots.